Yup. Everybody, it's 1 week from today will be Valentine's Day. And some people will be happy, they'll be elated, they'll be blissful, they'll be excited, they will be abundant, they'll be hippopotamously happy. And then you have those individuals that will be mad. What's up, Britt? Then you have those individuals next week that'll be sad, disgruntled, mad, unhappy, disgustful, and they'll feel disgraceful. It's between the two pendulums that we find our emotions. Next week, you'll see people come to work mad, ridiculously frown, their face will be upside down. Then you'll have those people that's going to come and feel all good, and you'll be able to tell next week who's loved and who's not loved, who feels love and who doesn't feel love, who has a Valentine and who doesn't have a Valentine. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm gonna get to work a half hour early just so I can see. Valentine's Day is a week from today, and some people will rush to fulfill an availability in their life, even if it's just for a temporary moment. It's crazy. But I didn't get on here to talk about that. I know it's been a minute. I know we haven't talked in a while, so let's have lunch together. Let's talk about, let's just grab a topic. Let's talk about decision making. Oftentimes it's crazy, Keisha. Oftentimes we find ourselves vacillating between two opinions. We find ourselves, Paul calls it, the things that I want to do, I don't do. But I find myself doing the things that I don't want to do. And then he goes on to say, but it's not me, it's the sin that's in me. Oftentimes we vacillate between two opinions. We have the devil on this side, and then we have the angel on this side. We have the things that we want to do, but then we have the things that we don't want to do. And right before us, it stands our desire. And what stands in between us and our temptations, right before us we have our temptations. And what stands before us, between us and our temptations, is our desire. The temptations never change. Never ever. We're always going to be tempted. You're always, everywhere you go, in whatever capacity you stand, whatever position you hold, you're always going to have a temptation. Whether it be a food temptation, whether it be a sexual temptation, whether it be a lustful temptation, whether it be a temptation to argue, a temptation to fight, a temptation to give a person a piece of your mind, you're always going to have a temptation. But what stands in between you and you, what's up, Nita? Been a minute, baby, miss you. But what stands in between you and your temptation is your desire. And that's the controllable. How do I control my desire? Let's talk about that. How do I tame the tongue that I've been given? James talks about it's the hardest thing to tame, because your tongue is the thing that starts wars, but it's also the thing that starts peace. Cook, how do I tame my desires? How do I handle it? The first thing you have to do is be decisive. Make the decision that this is how I'm going to handle the situation. And whatever how you're going to handle it, act on it. You can't think about the what ifs. No, you can't continue to drown in the what ifs. You have to make a decision. This is the action plan. This is what I'm going to do. And this is how I'm going to handle it, irrespective to what happens after that. Irrespective to it. You know, one of the books I never forget. I don't know which one it was. Terry McMillan's, right? Years ago, I read, I think it might have been, I read all of the books, but I think it was Waiting to Exhale. I had never had a chance to get to see the movie, right? What's up, Court? But in Waiting to Exhale, one of the characters was Russell. He's down in they're at the hotel, right? And they're eating, I think it's Waiting to Exhale. I don't know, one of the books. They're down in the hotel, right? And they're eating. And he says to, I forgot the lady's name, he says to her, you ever just want to do something and just worry about the consequences after? And that's where many of us are. We have such a great ambition. We have so many things that we want to accomplish. But we're too concerned about what happens afterwards instead of accomplishing them. You have to be decisive in every capacity of your life. Why? What's the benefit of being decisive? That you achieve the goal, and what you don't achieve, you learn from. Let me give it to you again. Good God Almighty. I'm feeling this one. If when you become decisive, two pendulums happen. You worry about what's going to happen afterwards because you're setting your mind, this is my goal, this is what I want to accomplish, and two things happen. If you achieve the goal, you do. Yeah, of course. If you achieve it, then you win. If you fail in achieving your goal, but you put forth an effort to win it, you still win. Why? Because there's a lesson in that. You hear what I said? And what happens is that what hurts a lot of us is that we become indecisive. That's why I haven't been on Facebook, because I've been off task in my decision making. Haven't really been on social media. You haven't seen me post any videos. You haven't seen me post any of my thoughts or anything of that nature, because my decision making has been off kilter. It's been off. And the greatest sickness in the world is not cancer. Let me give it to you again. The greatest sickness in this world, the greatest sickness in the world is not cancer. The greatest sickness in the world is not AIDS. The greatest sickness in the world is not drugs. But the greatest sickness in the world is indecisiveness. Did you hear what I said? Somebody got to tweet that out. The greatest sickness in the world, the greatest ailment, the greatest thing that holds a person back is indecisiveness. Because we can't get our decision-making thing together. Decisions have to take place in your life. Either you're going to move forward or you're moving backwards. Because staying in the same place is where you die. If you decide to stay in the same place, you'll die eventually in that place. You have to make the decision. Either I'm going hard, I'm going forward, I'm going to achieve my goals, I'm going to attempt to achieve my dreams, or I'm just going to go backwards and die with everybody else that went backwards. You got to make the decision. And every character in the Bible, they had to make the decision. You had the woman with the issue of blood who had been bleeding for 12 years. Jesus is on his way to heal a girl, a 12-year-old girl, right? But in the midst of him healing, he stops off. In the midst of that, the lady who was ostracized. Now, keep in mind, in those days, anybody that was bleeding or was sick in those days, they had to tell everybody that they were unclean. and nobody could come near him. And so what happened was she had to make a decision. Either I want to get healed because I know that Jesus is in town, or I want to stay in the condition that I am. Either I'm going to go hard and knowing that people already know my condition. They already know I'm bleeding from the inside. They know I got issues. But I need to get healed. And so she makes the effort to go get healed. She's determined that in spite of all of the internal bleeding, all of the mindsets, or everything that's happening to her, I got to make the decision. Either I die and I continue to bleed and my emotions die, or I go forward. Whenever you see anybody in the Bible, when you see Peter had to make the decision. Either I'm going to get off the boat, and I'm working on this sermon now. Either I'm going to get off the boat and go to Jesus, or I'm going to stay in the boat with everybody else who refuses to get out the boat and die in my faith at sea. Either I'm going to make a decision to go and walk on the water and get to Jesus, or I'm going to think about the risk of it and die and drown where everybody else before me drowned at. You got to make a decision. You got to be willing to make history, baby. You got to make the decision to be great. You got to make the decision to move forward. You got to make that decision. Be decisive. Woo! A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And I'm saying to you that whatever you're up against, whatever you're hurting from, whatever obstacles you may have that's in your way, whatever the thing that's making you bleed from the inside out, you got to make a decision from this point on. My healing starts